Welcome to Investor in the Family Radio, a podcast about learning to invest. My name is Brian Bain, and I'm your host. At Investor in the Family Radio, we believe that every dollar and minute we spend is an investment in something, and together, we want to make the best investments that we can, so thank you so much for joining us. And on today's show, we're going to talk all about the big Apple event yesterday, September 7th, 2016, and I've got Mark Hibben on the show. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about iPhone, Apple Watch, what was new, what was disappointing, can we be excited about, all that and more on today's interview with Mark Hibben, so I hope you'll enjoy that. Remember, our goal is to help you learn to invest. That's financially and in all of life. You can always find more at investorinthefamily.com. How much time do you currently spend trying to figure out your investments? Are you tired of spinning your wheels, attempting to conduct research that you really don't have time for? And if we're honest, you might not actually be qualified to do. Brett Jensen is the man behind the Biotech Forum, the #2 premium marketplace service on Seeking Alpha. He's also a top 5% ranked analyst according to TipRanks. Do you like owning companies that get acquired? So does Brett. Are you anxious about the current election season and how it may impact your portfolio? Perhaps it's time you put a portion of your portfolio on autopilot with Brett as your guide. Visit biotechforumsa.com for more information. That's biotechforumsa.com. SA as in Seeking Alpha, biotechforumsa.com. And I hope you enjoyed today's interview with Mark Hibben. Hey, Mark, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Well, last week we did an episode previewing the big Apple event, and today was the big day. So I would love to get, what are your initial thoughts of the event as far as how it went? And then we'll get into maybe some specific details of product line and advancements and things.
Well, there were a lot of interesting things. My overall take is that certainly iPhone 7 turned out pretty much as I expected. I think most of the specific predictions I made turned out to have been borne out, and a lot of that was just derived from the various late breaking rumors that we got. So it pretty much came in as expected. The downside of that is it pretty much came in as expected, and the downside is that, well, the various Apple critics have been pointing to various leaked photos of iPhone purporting to be iPhone 7 since the beginning of the year, and they've been saying, well, since this looks so much like iPhone 6S, therefore iPhone 7 contains no innovation. There's nothing new there. I think that's absolutely unreasonable, but now that we've seen the actual iPhone 7, and it does in many ways bear a very, very striking resemblance to the various leaked images. So now the critics will be able to point to those and say, see, we told you so. It turned out exactly what the way we said, and that means, therefore, iPhone 7 is going to be a dud. I think Apple does have its work cut out for it to sell the phone and to convince consumers that the various improvements it made, and they made a lot of improvements, really do amount to something that, make it worthwhile and do amount to innovation. But I think it's going to be a difficult, somewhat uphill battle just because there's been this tsunami wave of critical iPhone 7 pre-reviews that have been coming out, telling everybody in the world how non-innovative iPhone 7 is. They've got to counteract that.
Well, you mentioned, but the appearance seems very much like we had expected. But you mentioned there were indeed improvements. What were some of those improvements?
Well, let me just talk to the appearance first. It was interesting when they first ran the introductory video, narrated by Johnny Ive, describing the new iPhone 7. They had this new finish treatment. They call this jet black. It's a glossy sort of piano black appearance, and in fact the antenna lines are almost invisible in that particular model phone, which was kind of like what I was predicting. I was saying that given all the criticism about those ugly antenna lines, that I thought Apple would probably do their best to make the antenna lines as inconspicuous as possible. So the new iPhone gets unveiled in this video. It's this glossy black, beautiful, gorgeous device. And I'm thinking to myself, God, I hope all of them were like that. I hope they did that with everything. No, they didn't.
love that. Go ahead.
Yeah. They have that. Yeah. They have the beautiful glossy black phone, the which they call jet black, and then all the other colors are basically the same, and the same surface treatment, the anodized aluminum treatment. And the glossy black is an anodized aluminum, but they have this specialized polishing process that makes it look really gorgeous. So I'm almost sure that the jet black phones are going to be sold out through the end of the year because everybody is going to want it because it looks different.
Right.
And the other phones don't look as different. Now, so that's the appearance aspect. And I don't know why Apple stopped short. Maybe they weren't sure that the glossy appearance was going to sell well. They kind of wanted to just have a trial balloon. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. As far as innovations, important innovations, well, probably the most interesting, important innovation were the new AirPod wireless in-ear headphones that also have microphones built into them, so that you can use them as two-way communication to make phone calls and so forth. Those look really, really marvelous. I don't know if people actually want to wear them. I think they may look a little funny because you've got these little microphone stalks sort of dangling out of your ears. But they truly are innovative. Apple designed their own wireless chip to support the new AirPods, and they're not making them available with the phone. In fact, they have a separate wired Lightning connector type headphone earpod type things that we were talking about before.
Okay,
that it was all going to be based on the Lightning connector, and they did eliminate the analog headphone jack.
Okay.
That went away.
But then, so the mic or the headphones, the earbuds that will come with the phone will plug into the Lightning connector like we mentioned last week. But they have the extra, I'll say aftermarket, they're wireless headsets?
Yeah, they're completely wireless.
Cool.
They're two separate little, they look like the earpods, but with no wires dangling from them. And they have a little microphone stalk that comes down from the earpod about like 2 inches. That sticks out about 2 inches from your ear. That's so that you can talk using them. So you can actually, you can make calls and so forth.
Cool.
Yeah. So that was actually, I thought that was actually the coolest, most innovative thing.
Oh man, we're only 6 minutes into the interview,
and if that's the coolest, most innovative thing, then what are we doing here?
Yeah, I've got a few jokes. I don't know if you got anything on your end.
Well, no, I'm kind of making fun of them, but I think it's partly to relieve the tension. Here I am nervously wondering if my investment in Apple is really going to pay off.
Well,
now.
Sounds like tomorrow might be a good day to buy, maybe,
or something. Well, there were a lot of important innovations, and a lot of them we did discuss, like the wider color gamut, what they call True Tone display, did make it into this generation iPhone. I think that's going to be very important. It does, in my view, and I agree with Apple. Apple claims that makes it the best display available in a smartphone. Well, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of disagreement about that. I don't doubt that. A lot of people really like Samsung's OLED displays, and Samsung does provide a little bit higher resolution as well, which a lot of people feel like is important. I am of the opinion that it is the best display. Whether that will really help sell the phone significantly, I think it's an awfully, when you talk about color gamut, that's an awfully subtle technical detail in most people's minds, and they're not really sure what that really means. But I think it does, in terms of the brightness and colorfulness of the display, it certainly helps there. They did improve the cameras very, very significantly. One of the ongoing criticisms that one often heard from, especially people who are, admire Samsung's Galaxy S7, which I think is a fine smartphone. I wouldn't want to put it down. I'm not one of those Apple fanboys who can't accept that other companies can achieve things.
You have some levels of maturity.
So just some, yeah. I mean, well, I'm talking to you on a Windows PC.
Whoa! We didn't need to hear that. All right, one step at a time here.
Okay, but anyway, one of the criticisms has been that Apple's camera technology really was lagging the flagship phones from Samsung, and I think there was some reasonable objective basis for that. There are certain camera parameters. One of them has to do with light gathering capability. It's usually designated by what's called an F number. If you're into cameras and photography, you know what that is. Yeah. Or an f-stop. Yeah. If you don't know what that is, it's not important. It just has to do with how much light actually gets through the lens onto the sensor. And one of the impacts that had for the Galaxy S7 was that it had really, really good low light capability due to that superior light gathering by the lens. Well, now Apple's improved their lens quite a bit to sort of close that gap. It's not quite equal in terms of numerical f-stop, but it's probably almost unnoticeable. The difference would be. There will probably be some testing reviews that come out that compare side by side the cameras for the iPhone 7 and the Galaxy S7. I'll be interested to see how they compare, but I'm pretty sure that Apple has closed the gap. The other big deficiency in the previous generation iPhone cameras, at least for the 6S, was that it didn't have optical image stabilization, and optical image stabilization really is superior to the next best thing, which is electronic image stabilization. Electronic image stabilization will keep the image stationary in the frame of the picture, but it won't cure a problem called motional blur, where if things are bouncing around a lot, then the image itself gets blurred, and even though the image is stationary, it's still blurred. Optical image stabilization can cure motional blur, and that's why it's preferred, and that's why it's superior. So Apple now is introducing optical image stabilization for the entire iPhone 7 line, not just the 7 Plus, but the iPhone 7 as well. So that's a big step up. So I think they've closed the gap, at least in terms of camera performance, compared to their major competitor, which is the Galaxy S7. And I think that's a step in the right direction. I don't know if they've necessarily gotten better than the Galaxy S7. I would want to wait till somebody does some really exhaustive testing to see, but at least they've closed that gap. And then on the 7 Plus, they did come up with the dual lens system, which we had talked about. And it works pretty much the way I thought it would work, which is that you've got two equivalent cameras, two equivalent sensors, but one has like a telephoto lens and the other has a wide-angle lens. And what's really nice about Apple software is that you don't have to decide which one you're going to use. You just have a zoom control, and when it's necessary, it'll just switch the cameras for you, and it's all pretty much transparent to the user. So that's really, yeah. So there were some good things there, and of course the processor got faster. They're claiming 50% faster, which is a big improvement. Will that make a difference to consumers? I don't know for sure. Apple didn't really make a particularly good case during the presentation. They actually did cite games as being one of the areas where the processor performance really makes a difference. And I had pointed to that in our previous interview, because that's the thing. Games are the area or the type of app that really stresses the processor the most right now.
Right. It's
nothing else that you do will really strain the processor as much. But the game they showed was just kind of ho-hum. And it didn't convince me. It didn't wow me, even as much as the Samsung unboxing event back I think that was in late February, during the Barcelona conference, where they had their unboxing event for the S7, and they showed a much more impressive example of game type animation. It wasn't a full-fledged game. There wasn't anything to play, but they were using the new Vulkan 3D graphics APIs, and it was really, really impressive. I mean, it was like photorealistic rendering, the kind of thing that you see on high-end PCs and the current generation consoles.
So listen, you describe that. It makes me think about, I guess it was last year when they revealed the Apple Watch, and they're trying to talk, everything at these events, they always talk about them like it's the most amazing thing that anyone has ever seen in the world, And
oh, sure. I remember, it's always amazing. Yeah. It's always amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't watch this year's event because I wanted to be fresh for this interview, but
sure.
When I watched, I guess, I don't know if it was last year's or in January, whatever one of their more recent events was. And I remember watching, because I don't typically watch them. And I remember thinking, I feel like this could be an SNL skit, because everything they're doing, they were being so dramatic about it. I'm like, so there's a rounded corner on the MacBook. I don't understand. I have one and I love it. It's great, but calm down. But I remember when Tim Cook was, showing off the Apple Watch and he drew a little heart on it, and he talked about that, had this amazed look on his face, like, look how personal this is. And I thought, come on, man, you got to give me more than that. So tell me this, so at this point, there's a couple of different things I would, in my mind, we could do. Like, do you want to talk, are there more things about the watch you want to focus on? We could talk about maybe some of the other product lines that happen, if anything interesting, or we could talk about big picture Apple stuff, because, this is going to feed more rumors of, quote unquote, this is the end of Apple. You know what I mean? There's no more innovation, and clearly this is happening. And where in my mind, I think, I don't know. I have some things I want to say about that, but I'm curious, of those three directions, where would you prefer to go?
Well, they did introduce the new, what they call Series 2 Apple Watch. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
That's kind of appropriate since we're kind of focused on the devices and the products right now. I think a discussion, a conversation about the big picture implications of all of this is a great idea, but I definitely would want to sort of take a step back and have a chance to think about it a little bit more. It's only been a couple hours since the big
We'll focus on the products, and maybe we can circle back to that maybe in a future podcast.
Yeah, I think we should do that. And actually, the watch was kind of one of those areas of pleasant surprise. First of all, it was only kind of a late breaking rumor that watch was even going to be a participant in this event. And it's almost as if Apple is kind of doing this sort of passing of the torch thing, where iPhone was the big centerpiece product, the thing that was making all the money, but now they want to sort of shift attention to their new latest, greatest big thing, which is watch. And so watch actually went first. It actually was the leading item in the presentation after they got through with a bunch of updates and kind of fluffy stuff that took up about a half hour, which I thought was almost a complete waste of time. But that's I
feel you.
We spent several minutes at least looking at the new Super Mario game app. I could really.
Everyone loves Mario Kart, but come on.
I could have lived without it. Right. Anyway, so Apple Watch is there is now a new version of Apple Watch. It's got a whole new system on chip, or what they call a SIP. But it's a new processor, new dual core, much faster, and the key improvement that they made, and this was one of the things that I really hated. I can say it now. I wasn't willing to say it at the time, even in my articles. But the thing I really hated about the first generation Apple Watch was that it wasn't waterproof. Not really waterproof. I have an old, back back before Apple Watch, smartwatches were made by companies like Garmin and Suunto. And I have an old Suunto sport watch that I would take swimming with me in the Pacific Ocean all the time. That became my standard for a sport watch. If I can't take it in the ocean, if I can't take it in the shower, if I can't wash it because they get dirty, then I just had no use for it. So I had no use for Apple Watch because it wasn't really waterproof. Now it is. You can take it down to 50 meters and it's guaranteed to be waterproof. That improvement alone is going to sell a lot of watches.
That does help a lot. Like I wear a Fitbit, which I actually really enjoy, but even it's not waterproof.
Yeah. Apple is saying it really is waterproof.
Great.
And the other thing that they did to really position it better for sports and fitness enthusiasts in particular is they gave it GPS. So now it's got GPS built in, and they're even saying that unlike most other GPS systems that you turn on the GPS or you activate the function, and it takes a while to get a lock on all the various satellites to give you a nice accurate position fix. They're saying no time required. You turn it on and it's there. I don't know how they do that because they don't have one of the other capabilities that was kind of bandied about for a while. People were talking about, well, maybe this year they'll be able to have LTE connectivity. I've been writing about that, and I've been saying for some time, I believe that's coming, but it's not ready yet. And sure enough, it definitely wasn't there. But I think just on the basis of the enhanced processor, more functionality, more capability, more standalone capability by virtue of having GPS, more durability by virtue of being truly waterproof now. I think I think the watch is going to definitely do a lot better. It's still pretty tightly coupled to the iPhone. You still, you're not going to be able to make calls directly from your watch. You're not going to be able to send emails directly from your watch, unlike a few other watch type devices that have already come out. But they took the right steps to actually position it as a much better sports and fitness watch type device. And I think that's the market that they're really targeting right now. And those are the kinds of companies that I think should be very worried about the new Series 2 Apple Watch.
Yeah, well, I can't remember if we talked about it in our last interview or not, but the wearables market, I mean that definitely seems to be some people may say cars, I guess, but it definitely seems like one of the next big frontiers. And obviously Apple Watch is Apple's big move into that area. So I'm glad to hear they're making some nice progress. And it sounds like, I remember, again, when the first iPhone came out, it was fine, but it wasn't a huge hit necessarily. It wasn't until, they gained more momentum. They added GPS. They added, they had faster cell service, and a lot of more apps started getting created. So seeing the second generation of the Apple Watch adding in GPS, not adding LTE, but adding in, the waterproof features, which is relevant for the product, it's encouraging, and hopefully we'll be able to see more app development and more usage coming from that and value added, I guess.
Yeah. I think for this year, it's not going to be a huge mover of the needle. They're probably you're probably still talking about selling 3 to 5 million per quarter. Not a huge number. But there was one other thing I wanted to note, which I thought was really, really interesting, and that is that they introduced a new material for the Apple Watch. And the for one thing, they basically got rid of the gold watches. Apparently they're gone. I checked the site and there's no gold or rose gold options, true gold, not just gold color.
So they didn't have too many people taking them at 10 grand for one of those bad boys?
No, apparently not.
I'd rather buy like 8 ounces of gold than go buy a watch.
I was not surprised to see that go away, although I didn't make the prediction per se. I was much more focused on technology stuff. But here's an interesting little tidbit. one of the body material options now for the Series 2 watch is ceramic.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me about why that should be exciting.
Well, it probably suggests that the next iPhone could be made out of ceramic, is what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I hear that, so obviously that would be a much stronger material, I'm assuming. I mean, not stronger, but tell me why that matters. Because if I hear that and I think, well, that sounds unusual, so assume it's great, but tell me why.
Well, ceramic can be engineered to have a lot of good properties, unlike glass, which you're kind of stuck with the basic properties of glass, which is that it's very brittle and fragile. Now, ceramics tend to be brittle too, but there's been a lot of progress in engineering ceramics that can be much tougher and more impact resistant, and that's what you want. Now, the fact that they're using it on the watch says that they believe that it's a sturdy enough, strong enough material to stand up with a certain amount of bashing that watches take just in day-to-day use.
So this would primarily be for the face of the watch, and not or the whole thing.
The body of the watch is made out of ceramic. It's white. It's kind of a pearlescent white. And then the watch face is the sapphire face.
Gotcha.
So it's interesting to me that they're looking at that material as a body material. It reminded me of all these rumors that came out just recently about iPhone 8 being an all glass body, glass body and glass front and back. And when I heard that, I said, "Well, I'm sorry, but if you think just having glass on the front is fragile, wait till you have an entire body made out of glass. It's just not going to work." But ceramic's another matter altogether. I think it's definitely, there's some potential there, and the ceramic would enable certain features that people have been talking about for the next iPhone 8 that would have been enabled by, say, the glass sandwich concept, going back to the iPhone 4, 4S, and the chief among those being that ceramic can be made to be transparent to electromagnetic waves, so you can do wireless charging through it.
Oh, cool!
And that seems to be the motivation for the rumors of the glass sandwich, is that people think that wireless charging is going to be a big selling point for iPhone 8, and how do you implement that? Well, there's a lot of different ways to do that, and one of them is that you can still use an aluminum unibody. You just have to sort of provide a glass or a transmissive window, which is kind of what they do with watch right now. The aluminum bodied watches just have a plastic back, and then the stainless steel watches have a ceramic back.
Of course, and then, of course, talking about the potential of an 8, that's assuming that's probably 2 years from now. So, of course, they can always shrink it down to 1 and not do a 7S, I guess.
Right. Well, I was thinking about next year, and the reason why people have been talking about an iPhone 8 for next year is because it's the 10th anniversary of iPhone.
So this year they're kind of holding back on us a little bit, waiting for the big reveal.
Well, there is some thought that they were kind of holding back, and then the 10th anniversary iPhone will be the big innovative thing. That's been sort of the narrative. I think there is plenty of innovation, but to just sort of wrap up, I think my main initial takeaway from the presentation is that it's a much better phone. It's a much better value. It's very improved. There are certainly innovations contained within it, but Apple now has to sell the phone, and they have to push hard on the marketing aspect of it to counteract all the sort of negative propaganda that's been coming out since the beginning of the year. And that's really Apple's big mission going forward. Is the phone's not going to sell itself the way iPhone 6 did.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they have to convince consumers that it's worth upgrading. There's still a lot of iPhone users who haven't upgraded to the larger screens. And even the ones who have, if they're using iPhone 6, probably want to try to recruit some of those to upgrade to iPhone 7. Obviously, moving from 6S to 7 probably doesn't make a lot of sense.
Of course, they do have those plans now where basically people are leasing their phones for essentially, which, they could get people continuing that upgrade cycle, which isn't quite the same because they're kind of paying already anyway, but maybe a little bit there. And there's always people like me who are sitting back here on an iPhone 5 that, are ready to buy something. Yeah. Okay, so I guess we can always look forward to some fun Samsung commercials now making fun of the new iPhone. I'm sure those are well on their way. When will the phone be ready? Is it available for purchase now?
I think pre-orders start on the 9th if memory serves, and then let me check my notes just so I don't give people the wrong date, but I'm pretty sure that availability, they start shipping and availability starts on the 16th. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So it's the 16th.
Awesome.
So, yeah, that's what's going on. Yeah, I think we should have another discussion more of the longer term investment issues and maybe future of the company type discussion at some point.
I like that because I think that's something it's on my mind, and I've already got things that I want to address there, but I think that'd be a fun conversation. But we'll circle back to that. But for now, hey, this has been awesome, Mark. Thanks for all the info. And this is good stuff. I appreciate it.
Okay. I always enjoy talking to you. We always have good conversations. And I look forward to doing this again real soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's interview with Mark Hibben. And remember, you can get full show notes with links and other details at investorinthefamily.com. Don't forget to check out Brett Jensen's premium Seeking Alpha service by going to biotechforumsa.com. That's biotechforumsa.com. This is Brian, and thanks for joining the family. The information and opinions contained on this podcast are for educational purposes only. The information does not consider the economic status or risk profile of any specific person. The information and opinions expressed should not be construed as investment trading advice and does not constitute an offer or an invitation to make an offer to buy and sell securities.